All right, everybody. Well, it is noon, so we will go ahead and get started. Sorry, my camera is a little bright today. So, okay, try to rectify that, but that's okay. Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Bentley Rare Book Museum's virtual coffee with a curator program. It's so good to see all of you today. If this is your first time attending the program, welcome. This is I like to call hashtag rare community of bibliophiles that meets a couple times each semester to discuss rare books and book history. So thank you so much for joining. And if you've been joining us during our journey doing the virtual coffee with a curator programs, again, thank you so much for joining as well. I want to begin before we start the main part of our program. I would like to begin by thanking everyone who attended the opening of our new exhibition titled The Books That Taught Us. We opened on October 20th, had an amazing turnout, have just a few photos that I'd love to share in case you weren't able to make it to the opening. It was awesome. Many thanks to our vendors, Read for Unity and Black Coffee Atlanta, for supplying giveaways. And thank you to Addie McDowell, of course, for sharing her own collection of historic textbooks during the event. It was so nice to be able to see that as well, in addition to the exhibition. And I want to just let everyone know that this exhibit is now on view at the Bentley Rare Book Museum. So please do stop by and enjoy this nostalgic and also, I would say, thought-provoking exploration into historic textbooks. So yay, just wanted to show a couple photos. Awesome. All right. Super. We got some more folks coming in, so just gonna let them in. Okay, wonderful. So we have a very fun topic today. Kind of more or less weird stuff in books or interesting stuff in books. So our question of the day is, what's the most interesting thing you've ever found in a book? And I asked this question very broadly. It can be something content related, it can be an item, it can be like a quote, anything like that. So I cannot wait to hear what different people want to share. We have a great lineup today. But before we get started, we, as usual, are going to have Andrew's segment. There are Where's Andrew, and actually it's kind of Where's Andrew and Where's Addie today. It's a little game that we play. So Andrew changes his background to a different bookish place every time we meet. Usually it has something to do with the theme. Not sure if it has something to do with the theme today. It was kind of a tough one. And we have to guess where Andrew is. Andrew, does it have anything to do with the theme today?
Well, it's a bookstore this time with definitely something quite special about it.
Okay, so
Very
Andrew did
unique.
give us a clue. Yay.
I mean, what's special kind of shows up very well on the screen here, but
Yes, exactly. Okay. So our job is to guess where this is. So we can just call out, let's see, trying to look at, okay, it's a bookstore. I've never been to that bookstore. Is
I would
that,
love to go personally.
yeah. So I'm assuming, we're not assuming, I'm just wondering. So is that in Europe?
It is not.
Oh,
Sort of a big clue here is you have a nice big proscenium. If I can show it right.
okay. Hmm. Sorry, just admitting to. Oh. Anyone have a guess? I'm sure you all are much smarter than I am.
Is it like in Las Vegas or something, like a show
Oh, it
thing?
feels very Vegas, but unfortunately it's not.
Okay.
Hmm. Um, oh, is it in New York City?
Unfortunately not, no.
No.
There's a lot of places like it in New York City.
Okay.
But none of which are bookstores.
Hmm. This is I don't know how I've never heard of this amazing bookstore here. Um, oh, Bill, did you have something? I don't think we can hear you.
Yeah, we still can't hear you.
Maybe if you sign out and sign back in, maybe we'll be able to hear.
Muted.
Let's see. Any guesses? Any other guesses? Because I don't know.
Trying to think of a
You're
good.
trying to think of a good hint?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a clue you can give us?
Well, it is in a very well-known city
Okay.
that has two words in it.
That's
San
too bad.
Francisco.
No,
It is not in a country that we previously mentioned.
Wait, what?
It's not in a country that's been previously mentioned. So United
Oh.
States,
it's not.
anywhere in Europe.
Oh. Okay, I was assuming there. Okay. Um, I don't know. I give up. Does anyone else want to have a shot before we?
Looks like Mr. Bogu's back.
Okay. Oh, Christy thought maybe like Toronto.
Not Toronto, but I have a great recommendation for a place that's similar in Toronto afterwards. Not London, not even Europe.
Not even Europe. Okay.
It is in South America, yes. Think, Don't Cry for Me.
Argentina.
Yes. I should have led with that. Thank you. Yeah, so this is in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Oh.
It is called El Eterno Grand Splendid, and I'm probably butchering that, frankly. It was a movie theater built back in 1919. In 1929, it was originally a stage theater, became in 1929 a movie palace, became the first site of a first talking film in Buenos Aires. And in 2000, after threatened with demolition, it became a massive bookstore in a very cool looking place.
It certainly is.
So with Toronto, before I forget, there is a theater called the Winter Garden in Toronto, designed by Thomas Lamb. It is the only surviving double-decker theater in the world from that era. It has a theater down below that I think that was classical themed. And then on top of it is actually a second theater, equal size, that is all a massive garden. It is absolutely on my mom's list of places to go. Looks absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend looking up pictures. Has nothing to do with books, just very interesting.
That's amazing. So going back to the bookstore in Buenos Aires, oh my goodness. So when did you say it was transformed into a bookstore again?
2000.
Uh-oh.
Wow. I'm kind of
It's
just
very
saddened
recent.
by this because I've been to Buenos Aires. I went in 2011 and I didn't even know about this location. I don't think it was part of my trip that I was on. I'm so mad that I didn't get to see that.
You'll just have to go again.
Yeah, I know. I always have to go again. Yeah, exactly. It was really cool there. Lots of dulce de leche. A lot of it there. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Andrew. And for those who don't know, Andrew always very generously puts a worksheet. He makes a whole worksheet about the location and adds that to the chat so you can download it there. Very, very cool. That looks like an amazing spot. And we don't always have bookish places that are in South America. So yay. Glad for that one. Wonderful. Well, we will go ahead and get started with our main program. We are going to hear from some amazing people again today about what's the most interesting thing you found in a book. And we have a few volunteers who would like to share some things. So I am going to just go in the order that people responded to my inquiry. So that'll actually have us, we'll go ahead and start with Robin, if that's okay. I know you've got a couple things to share, so can't wait to hear.
Okay. I kind of collect German textbooks because I studied German. So then I got this old textbook of my dad's. It's from the 40s. And I didn't realize it had anything in it till recently. I was looking at it and his schedule fell out of there. I thought that was really interesting because he's taking like 7 courses. It looks like a really hard load. And
Great.
I thought it was interesting because my son was a chemistry major at KSU and my dad was a chemistry major at Penn State. But then I also found more stuff that fell out. Just all kinds of notes, like write a paper on time and just all kinds of chapter assignments. So I thought that was really sort of a snippet maybe into a little bit about his, life, just notes on classes like speech class and then vocabulary. And then he had somewhere, I don't know where it was. There were some more notes. He even had like a motivational quote because having 7 courses, you probably needed a motivational quote. Yeah, here it is.
Absolutely. And being a chemistry major.
Right. He said, let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. So he had a little motivational quote to himself, I guess, for this hard level of classes. But so that was really cool that just fell out of the book. And then the book covers. He has these book covers on there. So I remember when I was in high school and middle school, we always had to cover our books. But this one, interestingly, has a place for like a doodles, like a shopping list. And he has tape and letter tabs, which he obviously used on this book.
Right.
And then it said, on the cover, I just thought was interesting. It said, students wise, economize. Keep your books in good condition. Help America keep prices down. This is copyrighted 1947, so not that far, war years.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just all these things were inside the book because I guess when you have these book covers, you can sneak a lot of stuff in here. And there's even blank cards he hadn't used yet, I guess. So that was what I found in there. And that was interesting. And this is the outside of another one of his books, but it has an interesting milk advertisement. So this is on the outside, so I'm going off course here, but I just thought it was interesting. As your courses become harder each term, you need more than ever the health building qualities of this pure, fresh, tuberculosin, I guess I'm saying that right, tested milk in your daily diet. Abbott's A milk. So there you go, students.
There we go.
Get harder, drink more milk. So there's ice cream is just as good too, apparently. So that was on the outside of the book, but I thought it was so curious and cute that I wanted.
I will definitely take any excuse to have ice cream. Thank you for that.
I know. It says right here, ice cream is dependably pure and deliciously wholesome. This wonderful ice cream offers the same healthful protection as Abbott's A milk. So that'll be good for your classes if you eat this ice cream too.
That's so funny.
So those are things. I just found a bunch of things from, I guess, my dad's student days, which I didn't even know was in the book.
That is so cool. So you said you've had those books for a while, but just recently you were able to find those things that are inside of it.
Well, his schedule was just like this little thin piece of paper, and it just fell out on the floor when I picked up the book. And I said, oh, that's funny. So then I started exploring further, and I found tucked in the book covers all these note cards and quotes and things about his schedule and all that stuff. So I was like, oh, okay.
That's amazing. And then I think, did you tell me that your dad ended up becoming a doctor? Is that right?
Yes, he did. So I guess back then doctors had to study German. So that's why I don't know if this is the book. Yeah, this is German's. It's from 1947.
That's amazing.
So,
yay!
Yeah, I studied German. I just kept the books.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so happy for you that you were able to, that piece of paper fell out, the schedule fell out, and that you were able to look further and find even like another window into your dad's life, a time when you wouldn't have known him. And
no, that's true. Well before my time. So that's really interesting.
That's so great. Yay! Thank you so much, Robin. Thank you for sharing. You always have such wonderful books.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. Yay. Well, our next person, Bill. Oh gosh, we still can't hear you. I don't know why. Hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah,
If you go to down at the bottom where it says mute, there's like a little arrow. If you click that, it'll have microphone options that may be some help.
yeah, maybe. Well, that's okay though. We will come back, Bill. We will come back to you and we will, let's see. Let me see. I know, Andrew, that you have several books that you would like to show. It will do Andrew, then Addie.
So I have a lot of good stuff today. I couldn't pick just one thing,
Of
so
course
I had to
not,
go with
Andrew.
it.
Of course not.
Um, so first of all, I think I showed you this last week, but this is, I mean, I'll turn the background off before I start disappearing. Um, Here it is. This is a book called One and a Half in Norway. If you look at the title page, it says it is a Chronicle of Small Beer by Ivor and Bo. There was a book called Doing Men in Norway, which was a humorous travel log. So already sort of a parody in itself. And this is a parody of that, with one and a half, of course, being half of Dewey. And the book Doing Men in Norway later inspired Doing Men in a Boat. The reason I brought this, got it not too long ago, and I found when I got home inside the front cover was a signature from a former owner that reads Mrs. Joseph E. Brown, 159 Washington Street, Atlanta, Georgia. Um, Mr. Joseph E. Brown was the governor of Georgia back in the Civil War, later became very involved in state politics afterwards. And this is from his wife, I believe Elizabeth was her name. Interestingly, she's the only woman to have a statue on the grounds of the state capitol. It's her husband, Joseph, has one, which he's sitting down, and then she's standing right behind him. So that's her little claim to fame. The next book is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. This is a 1923 edition published in England. And the thing that was interesting when I was looking into it was actually the illustrations. You can see here's Huck Finn himself, which all the pictures are stills from a silent film adaptation of Huckleberry Finn that came out about that time. So it's a very, very nice piece of, a little bit of a Twain book, and also a nice piece of sort of Hollywood history.
Absolutely.
There's another one of Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer.
Wow.
So all the books I brought today, I decided to focus on ones which were kind of surprises in what I found. I made one exception to that, which is this one. It's called The 26 Letters by Oscar Ogg. I just thought this one that everyone would like to see, as it is a history of the alphabet, starting with cavemen and their grunts and their making letters on walls and whatever they did, and then ending with sort of modern printing in the 1940s and 50s. But it is a beautifully illustrated book filled with examples of calligraphy and typography and woodcut illustrations, has different examples of fonts. In the very back, here's samples of different fonts, kind of showing how they can be used. There's info in here. Both of these pages are text from the Kilnstock Press, are replications of their type. It's a fantastic book. And the middle of it is just massive letters, just the alphabet all laid out in proportion. I was very happy when I found this. Actually came from the Cobb Library book sale that they just held.
And Andrew, I think because I got to see this book in person, and we noticed that it's in beautiful condition as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't have the dust jacket, which evidently is a very pretty mid-century modern jacket when I looked it up. But the rest of the book is very, very nice.
Yeah.
There's another page of letters.
Super pretty.
I'm very, very happy with this one.
Yes. Next
is Monteith's Course Independent Comprehensive Geography, one of the atlases I've collected. This one's 1877, is my second oldest. I got this at a bookstore in Rome, Georgia, and I was looking through the middle of it when I got it, but not really the end papers, which are filled with notes and doodles from past owners, a bit big so I can't quite show it. But also was stuck inside the front a lithograph of Joseph Joffre, one of the French generals of World War One. It has nothing to do with what's inside the book. The book is all geography of the 1870s, so I don't know where this came from, but it's there. And it also has, if I can get it open, advertisements that were pasted in the front by some Pastone, all from, I guess, newspapers. It's just names of people. Like there's one that has a boot and says W.S. Hill. There's an Amanda E. Dresser, maybe calling codes. But there's one that says G.G. Oman and Sons, Manufacturing Confectioners and Bakers of Louisville, Kentucky. It's just some very interesting sort of advertisements. See, next is another atlas. This one is 1947. It's massive. It's right after World War II. But when you're looking through it, all the maps are from before the war. It doesn't have any of the changes with World War II calls. There's just one Germany in here. Trying to get to that page. You can see it. Here's the unified Germany. And in the front, it explains why that is. There's a big coupon. I can show that right. It explains that all the maps in here are from before the war because they hadn't quite signed all the treaties yet. So they said, send this coupon in once all the treaties are signed, and for $1, you will get all the updated maps. But whoever owned this never sent them a coupon, so it's still here, and I'm eternally grateful to them. The final set of books I brought, it is a lot. I told you that already. This is The Illustrious Life of William McKinley. This is the salesman's dummy for it that I have. And I got the dummy a couple months ago, but I finally found a copy of a full book, the English language edition. I also have a Norwegian edition. But inside of it, I ordered this off of eBay. We want many pictures of the inside. I didn't quite know what to expect. And it's a nice biography of William McKinley. Talks about his life and especially his death, a lot about his death. But stuck inside here, I never remember exactly which page it's on, so take me a minute. Here it is an advertisement for the Willys Overland Company that is now Jeep. And there also is, on the back of it, a recipe for, it's something medicinal. It is a liniment for sprains, dated June of 1917. It uses 1 ounce of liquor ammonia, 1 ounce of tincture inica, a full ounce of opium. I repeat, a full ounce of opium. 1 ounce oil of turpentine, and another ounce that is all alcohol.
That's a little questionable.
This can cure anything, I promise you.
Oh, yeah.
It may not cure it, but you will definitely not be feeling it.
I know, exactly. You won't feel a thing.
And there's a second recipe on here at the very bottom. So the top one's labeled number 14. I don't know where the others are. But number 15 is actually how to increase the dosage using even more opium and even more alcohol. So it is quite the fun. So that's all my crazy and weird books.
That is so cool, Andrew. And that I'm sure that just kind of skims a very small surface of your collection. So
I had to be very selective with this.
Of course you did. That's really cool stuff. Thank you. And it was like it was very different kinds of things. So I really appreciate that. That is awesome. Thank you. Bill is adding into the chat that recently he found a newspaper clipping in a book from a Philadelphia paper from the day after the Titanic sunk with news of the sinking and the rescue of passengers. So that is super duper cool. Found that in a book. And then of course, Bill loves signed books. He is someone that I have never seen someone get so many signed books. By the way, Bill, I got Dr. Scott to sign the book for you. He wrote a very nice note. So I think you'll be excited. Of course, you'll be excited about that. Let's see. Oh, wow. Okay. So Bill, read his comment in there about very valuable signed book. Oh, wow. Shortly after the book. Oh, wow. That's amazing. So Bill has found he's gotten books signed, but he's also found some really interesting books with signatures. So Anyway, thank you so much, Bill, for sharing that in the chat. We really appreciate it. And if your audio begins working, we will give you definitely a chance to be able to talk. I hope so. Yeah, exactly. Wonderful. So next, Addie, would you like to share some books from your collection that you found interesting things in?
Yes, I would. So, unfortunately, I was limited to the books that I already had at the Bentley that I was using for the exhibition, since my larger personal collection is back at home in Augusta. But I was able to find some really cool things still in some of the books that I presented at the exhibition. One of which, if you were at the exhibition, you might be familiar with because I showed a few people. But this is a school dictionary that belonged to my great-grandmother. And it's in pretty bad shape, but it's one of my favorites in my collection just because of the sentimental value. But as I was presenting it, I forgot that I had put rose petals on the inside, and those were from my great-grandmother's funeral. So I put those in the pages, and it was really nice to find those on the day of the exhibition, and reminded me of like other like flowers and petals and living things that I found in books in the past. And then yesterday, actually, I found while I was looking through some of my junior classics books, I found that this one had a little note in the front, like for due dates and checkout names. So somebody had, even though this was in their personal collection, somebody had went ahead and added a little checkout list to the inside, which I thought was really cool. So I did not bring a million books like Andrew did. So that is the end of my collection. But yeah, still.
I love that. And first of all, the rose petals from your grandmother's funeral, I just think that is so special. Did you get emotional when you opened that up and realized?
Yeah, a little bit. I
Yeah.
remember I was less emotional than my friend Mackenzie, because Mackenzie came to the exhibition and like she like actually started crying because of like how touching it was. I was just like, you've never met this woman. What's going on? But like yeah, it was a touching moment.
That's really special. And then I know it's hard to appreciate it on camera, but for those who, the little checkout card that someone made, it's even cuter in person because I've seen it and it is so adorable. It's like someone was, a little aspiring librarian, made a little checkout card on notebook paper for their book. Super duper cute. Thank you so much for sharing, Addie. Those are wonderful finds and books. And next, Kate, would you mind, I know you don't have the book with you, would you mind sharing your super cool story about your book? I just think everyone needs to hear it. Oh, you're on mute, Kate.
Everybody, every so often.
There we
Okay,
go.
there I am. So I'm an archives librarian, but my background is in English. And I don't know if you've ever been around English majors, but we like to talk about literature a lot. But I have a book that actually kind of holds an interesting history of what that talk can look like. When I was getting my first master's degree, I was dating a fellow English major who had lots of opinions about literature, and he loaned me a copy of the book All the King's Men by Robert Penn Warren, which is a pretty, decent sized little book, right in our wheelhouse. We were both studying modernist literature. And it turns out we had different attitudes about books, not just literature, but like books as an object, because he was the kind of person that would dog-ear pages. And he would also write things in the books. And what I mean by that is he would make notes on things he wanted to remember, but he would also sort of talk back to the author a little bit. And so, I said, well, okay, when in Rome. So as I was reading through the book, I started adding my own notes, and some of those notes were replying to his notes, answering questions, asking my own questions. Some of them were also commenting on the text itself. And so I had that book for a few years, and it was kind of a funny little object, especially, after we broke up, and it was a memory of this difficult person I dated at that time in my life. But later on, my sister got really into reading Robert Penn Warren, and so I loaned the book to her. And she did what I did. She started replying to everybody's comments, to his comments, to mine, to the text itself. And she's also an English major and an archives librarian, so she had her own strong opinions about it. So I have a book that, it doesn't have anything stuck into it, but it has this whole conversation between readers in the book, that I think is kind of fun. So, that's a book that I can never get rid of because it's got this life of its own beyond just the text.
I was told Kate she had to tell this story at this program. I mean, can we all start doing this more? I feel like people used to do that, and I don't think we do that as much anymore. I need to anyway, I'm gonna
But that's the stuff that people like. When
Yeah.
people look at rare books, they like to find that evidence of other people
right.
reading the books. So yeah, I normally I'm not, like I said, a person that writes in books, but I don't know. I kind of embraced it more in that situation, and it made it kind of fun.
That's amazing. And Corinne notes that she wrote in the chat that she did that in high school with a copy of Perks of Being a Wallflower, and there were different pen colors for each reader. I love that.
That's cool.
I love that idea. That is so cool. That's amazing. So anyway, I think I'm gonna find a book to do this with some people that I force into doing this with me. Yay. Well, thank you, Kate, for sharing. That is so awesome. Let's see, does anyone else have a book or books that they would like to share? If not, I've got a couple from the Rare Book Collection, and I know Lori has some things that I have. I have the pictures. Christian, if you have something ready, I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I forgot I had this in my office. So I actually have an old catalog of printing machinery and supplies. That's actually a lot of fun just because we have various printing equipment and furniture and stuff like that. But I think the best part is there is a whole little section for type and various examples.
Oh, wow.
As well as, let's see if there's a really fun one in here. Oh, we've got fractions and the like in here too, as well as some other more decorative elements like right there.
Very cool. So wait, is this a book that you had this book from before?
Yeah, okay. So the story of how I received this book is so back when I was in Iowa for grad school, we at the Center for the Book got news that there's a couple various newspapers throughout the kind of area that were kind of just selling a lot of their wares as they were closing down. So what we ended up doing is just going by a lot of these places. We bought a ton of vintage paper, way more than we had any use for. I bought this book at one of the old newspapers, as well as a fun little perforation tool for tear outs and stuff like that. I can bring that in someday, but needs a little TLC, a little rusted, but we did quite a bit. I know some people also bought some typefaces while they were out too, but there's a ton of that stuff in the Midwest, especially when it comes to printing and stuff like that.
Sorry, couldn't find the unmute. Super duper cool. Thank you, Christian. That's a little piece of like your past life that it's still relevant now, but it's cool to see kind of how you your life in Iowa. I'm always curious to know about. Super duper cool. Corinne, I know you don't have the books with you, but you seem to have some great stories. Would you like to share?
Sure. Hold on. I can't see my camera, so I don't even know what you're looking at right now. Is
Oh,
it
you look
me?
great. Yeah, we
Oh,
see you
fantastic. Okay.
perfectly.
Oh, there we are. Okay, yeah. So I have found a lot of really mundane things. I do book repair,
Mhm.
and so a lot of the stuff is like 1800s, 1700s. So I've had to repair pages that are held together by small nails, like building nails, which is always fun to take out because they're usually rusted and dangerous. I found a nail file once in a Bible from the late 1800s. I have found locks of like baby hair, like tied with a ribbon, which is always a little disturbing because it's not like in plastic. It just falls out in this little clump of hair.
Yes.
But I have two things that were actually really cool that I found. One, I had a book of recipes that a church had put together in Alabama back like and maybe in the early 1900s they had put it together. And it was the Daughters of the Confederacy or something like this, and put together by all the wives of the men who went off, etc. But on the after the title page, the first inside flyleaf, they had a dedication to a woman, and I don't remember her name, though I have the photo. I was not prepared for today's meeting. But they had a dedication to the enslaved woman that worked in their house who gave them all these recipes. But that was it. That's the only thing she got was this little picture and a little weird little poem, somewhat racist poem. And so that was one of the first times I had encountered that in a book I was working on. So that was difficult. But
Wow.
later I got to work on a set of 4 Hebrew German prayer books, and they were in pretty rough shape. And I finally got to talk to the woman who owned them, and they were indeed books that her grandparents had given her parents, who then managed to get out of Germany with. But her parents did not make it out of Germany. So she had these books from her parents, and we got them all back in order. And it was really cool because there's not very many Hebrew German double language books left out there. So those are my brief stories. Thanks.
That's amazing. And I think Corinne has such a unique perspective as someone who is, helping to actually like repair these books. And you get the stories behind them as well. Because I imagine a lot of your clients will explain why maybe they have this book, or you find things, but then also you get that context maybe by talking with the client. So
Yeah, definitely. They're always
yeah.
really excited to share this story, which is nice. I had one woman who found she was adopted and she inherited a book after her father died, and she found the rest of her family that way, so like there's a lot of really cool, and I don't know that to me it's just it would happen to be a law dictionary. So to me it's a law dictionary, but it's really cool for people to find things like that too for themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. Let's see. Let's see. I think Kelly, do you have a story to share?
I do. I have a really quick story.
Yay.
I promise it'll be quick, but it kind of goes to what Kate was saying about, making connections with other people in a book. So, when I went to a, okay, well, first of all, my last name is Holmes. As you can see, it's my husband's last name, and he has a very small family. So if you see the name Holmes, then you know that, we're related, because there just isn't that many of them. And he's from South Alabama. So I was in a bookstore here in Georgia, West Georgia, a used bookstore, and I was looking through some books, and inside the front cover, somebody had written in pencil the last name Holmes. And it was like, oh my gosh, a connection with these people. I never figured out who it was and how that connection would be, because it seems kind of impossible. But it's like, who was this person? And it was just a connection to like possibly a family member, a long lost family member that we didn't know. So I don't really have anything more than that, but it was something that I never will forget because it was just so shocking. You just open it up and it's like, oh my gosh, that's me right there.
That is pretty crazy that, your last name not being a common one, all of a sudden the book you pick up at a bookstore has that name in it. That is pretty amazing. That's awesome. I love when serendipitous events like that happen. That is so great. Thank you for sharing, Kelly. Hopefully I'm not missing anyone. Let's see, I don't think so. I do want to share, Lori sent ahead of time a couple interesting photos of things that she has found and just in a couple books. Let's see. So Lori said she found this pretty little watercolor painting bookmark in a secondhand book this summer. So super pretty. That is really nice. What a beautiful find. And then she also found this newspaper clipping about Charles and Anne Lindbergh. She found inside of a book from 1925. So I think that the Lindbergh son was kidnapped in March of 1932. So I think this is a rare photograph that has been taken of the Lindberghs after the kidnapping of their child, and then that was reprinted into this newspaper clipping, which Lori found in the book. So really, Lori, I don't know if you can answer. I know you're driving right now. Was the book about the Lindberghs? She may not be able to answer.
Can I chime in with one thing real quick?
Yes.
So there's an excellent bookstore in Chattanooga called McKay's that has a lot of fantastic books, all much newer, but often very cheap. And there was a good one I got there on Charles Lindbergh. It was about 75 cents. It was A. Scott Berg's biography. And I found inside it was a lot of news clippings from the 90s, about the time the book came out, where someone had read this book right after it was released and started collecting the news clippings about Lindbergh and new developments in his story. Any new info that came out, I think it was like a new diary which was found, sort of adding on to the story of how it was shared in the book.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's amazing. You said that was at McKay's?
Yes.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Fantastic bookstore. Absolutely love it.
Oh, great. We always are looking for bookstore recommendations in this little club we have. So thank you, Andrew. Also, Lori confirmed that no, the book that she found, the newspaper clipping about Lindbergh, was not a book about Lindbergh. Of course not, because we find things about there. Who knows why someone put that in there? And that's actually kind of the fun of it. So yay for that. If no one else has anything that they want to share, I have a few pieces, not from my personal collection, but from the rare book collection here at KSU. Of course, I find just really, really fun things when I am looking at books, and I have a few that I would like to share. I think y'all will find this super fun. Okay, so I'm back to my PowerPoint. Okay, so this is the first one that I would like to show. I will say, just to give a little context, in August 2023, the Rare Book Room, we acquired a small collection of late 18th century, early 19th century books from Mr. Andrew Tatnall, who used to work here at KSU. Anyway, but these books, among others, were housed in Mr. Tatnall's father's home for many years. The family decided it was finally time to get these books in the Bentley. So I was incredibly excited to get to know these books. And what's the best way to get to know a book? It is to, look at it leaf by leaf. It can take a lot of time, but that's the best way. And so when I did that with these books, I found some super fun things. So this book is called Sacred History. Well, it's one title with 3 volumes, and it's called Sacred History, or the Historical Part of the Holy Scriptures of the Old and New Testaments, etc., by Thomas Elwood. So again, 3-volume work bound in calfskin. This edition was printed in 1778, although the first printing of these books occurred between 1704 and 1709. So again, I was looking at all 3 volumes, but I found that volume 2 in particular had some really interesting things. So you may be able to see, hopefully you're able to see at the top, my little taskbar is kind of preventing me from looking at it, but there should be an ownership signature up there for Joseph Tatnall, who was an ancestor actually of Mr. Andy Tatnall. Whenever I see, I see a lot of ownership signatures in books, but whenever I see one that matches with, the last name or the surname matches with my donor, I start to ask questions because it's probably a relative. And I did confirm Joseph Tatnall was, I'm sorry, my computer is beeping. Joseph Tatnall was an ancestor who worked as a miller in the Brandywine village of northern Delaware, which is where Mr. Andrew Tatnall's family is from, at least since they've been in the United States. And so I found that to be interesting. But another reason why I thought this was interesting is because there's kind of a hidden connection between this previous book owner, Joseph Tatnall, and the author. We can see here that the book is actually written by Thomas Elwood. Well, Thomas Elwood was actually a Quaker, an English writer who was a Quaker. Well, our donor, Mr. Andrew Tatnall, told me that his family is descended from Quakers. So he helped me do some research, and I found that Joseph Tatnall is a descendant of Robert and Anne Tatnall, who were Quakers from Leicestershire, England. So it's interesting that the family who owned the book and the author of the book were both English Quakers. But that's not all. I actually I wanted to do some research into the printer and the bookseller. You may see down here, it says printed and sold by James Phillips. I wasn't familiar with James Phillips, so I used a very handy reference book that we have here in the rare book room called A Dictionary of Booksellers and Printers Who Were at Work in England, Scotland, and Ireland from 1726 to 1775. And I learned that James Phillips was actually the bookseller to the Society of Friends in London, the Society of Friends being Quakers. So there's a Quaker author, a bookseller to the Quakers, and then also people who own the book were descended from Quakers. So I just thought that was really fun. And then, as you can see, pretty obvious here, there are a lot of ink stains. So showing us that someone who owned this book used an inkwell probably at one point. And just for collections managers, always good to know because pages or parts of the page that have ink on them are more brittle. So, and I have noticed that. So it's really good to remember that when taking care of the book. So I thought that was pretty fun. So my next one, this is also from the Tatnall collection. This is I found these interesting things. You'll see on the left side, you'll see some leaves. And on the right side, if you can see, this is a little bug in here, right here. So it's interesting because this is a natural philosophy book published in 1844, written by Denison Olmsted. Denison Olmsted was a teacher and a physical scientist. He has a very nice profile on UNC's helpful resource called Documenting the American South. Anyway, so I can put that in the chat later. But anyway, this particular book was a very popular science textbook used for students, and there were several editions of it. This particular copy, like I showed you, there's, as you can see, there's leaves and a bug. So I was like, okay. But my question was, was this intentional or not? And I kind of feel like maybe it was, because usually when, leaves are usually intentional when people are, leaves and flowers. That's usually an intentional insertion into a book. Bugs, usually they're just like either trying to eat the book and they get smashed in there, or maybe they're just at the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't know. This one, though, with this being a science textbook, I'm kind of wondering if maybe someone did this on purpose. I don't know. May have been. Maybe someone was engaging with natural history around them and they decided that they wanted to put the bug in there. I don't know. But I also know that there's a little, I think this kind of yucky but interesting that there's a little like acid ring around the bug because again, that's making the paper deteriorate more in that area. So kind of yucky, but find that to be very interesting. Next one I have, this is from a really old book. This is a page from a 1562 printing of Aristotle's works, and this book is bound in limp vellum, and the paper is made from rags. And that was very common during the hand press period or prior to the 19th century. And linen, linen rags are made from plant fibers. And I feel like when you shine a light through paper that's made by hand from rags, you can sometimes see paper fibers inside of them. And so I think that that's really, I never get sick of that. I see that frequently, but I never, ever get sick of it. And so that's pretty cool. Then here, another interesting thing that I found inside of this same book through shining a light in the paper, this is called a vatman's tear or a paper maker's tear, this little circle right here that you see. This is an errant water droplet that occurred during the paper making process because when you make paper by hand, it involves a lot of water. And this is a little droplet that happened that I guess appeared or on the mold during that process. And so now when the paper was dry and it still has the impression of that water droplet. And when you shine a light through it, you can see kind of a little malfunction in the paper making process, which is so interesting. So wanted to just kind of show that. And then, of course, with historic textbooks on my brain from my exhibition, I wanted to show a couple things that I found while curating my exhibition. This book is called Champion Arithmetics. It was donated by one of our previous student assistants named Caitlin Hobbs. So this book was published in the late 30s, I believe. It was heavily used in the 40s, as you can kind of see from this Birmingham Board of Education bookplate. So that's not really what I want to highlight. What I want to highlight was written on one of the fly leaves. This was just written in the book. Let's remember Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. So I know the book was used a lot in the 40s. I felt like this note could have been written on actual Pearl Harbor Day, which was December 7th, 1941, or it was very likely written later. But based on the handwriting, it doesn't look like, in my opinion, that a young child wrote this. It was probably an older student, an educator, a parent, I don't know, some kind of adult, or older, an adolescent maybe. But I find this interesting because I don't know, I kind of feel like so many Americans have forgotten Pearl Harbor. Not so much the event, but the day. Like I don't think most people think about Pearl Harbor when December 7th comes around each year. So I just kind of find it interesting that like in this textbook, we see that someone was trying to kind of memorialize a day that would have been tragic and life-changing for many Americans at that time, though it might feel a little more far removed from us now, remembering that actual day. Then I found this adorable poem in a book about physiology and hygiene. This book is undated, but it was likely published in the first decade of the 20th century or maybe a bit earlier. So this book is in the rare book room, but we acquired it from the Alpharetta Historical Society. And you see at the top, it says, Dear Eula. Well, this book was owned by Eula Hembry. And if you're familiar with the cities of Alpharetta and Roswell in Georgia, you'll probably recognize the name Hembry because that's a major road in Alpharetta and Roswell. And yes, Hembry Road is named for the family that Eula Hembry is part of. But anyway, I just love this little poem from her friend that it says, let's see, let me just move. Okay. It says, remember me when far away and only half awake. Remember me on your wedding day and send me a slice of cake. Your loving friend. And I guess maybe that says like CCD or CLD. I don't know. But I think it's adorable because it kind of reminds me of the little anecdotes that my friends and I would write in our middle and high school yearbooks. I guess whatever was cool to say or write at the time. I just think that's kind of cute. So I loved finding that in this little hygiene book. And lastly, okay, here we go. This big Bible, this is my last example. It's from this Bible here is part of the Rare Book Collection, and it was published in 1823. This Bible was owned by the Lawrence family. They were a prominent family with historical roots in Marietta and several other cities in the South. And we have a very large archival collection for the Lawrence family here at KSU. And that collection was acquired thanks to our campus historian and professor emeritus, Dr. Thomas Scott. The collection was acquired before we had an archives here. It was acquired in the 90s. And along with the archives came about 200 books from the family library. So this is, again, this Bible seems to have been bound by Robert de Treville Lawrence Sr. in 1867, as we can see right there. But I found some cool stuff inside of this Bible. So first, I found this note about value. It literally says, valuable, should also be registered by the state of Georgia Library, ? So the family, probably someone in the family was wondering, oh, wow, we found this Bible. So they were making a note to either themselves or someone else in the family, kind of communicating the fact that this Bible holds value, perhaps should be in the state archives. It ended up here at KSU, but I think that's great. I think that's a great place for it. Next thing I found in the Bible was a bunch of really interesting notes from genealogical notes. Some of them were printed, some of them are handwritten because the family was they were a family that they were very, very big into conducting their genealogy. So there were a lot of genealogical notes. So I think this is a very common find in family Bibles. The coolest thing, however, I found was between pages 648 and 649. It relates to something Corinne talked about earlier, a lock of hair. So who does this hair belong to? I'm not sure, but it was just tucked in there. And perhaps there is an explanatory note about the hair somewhere in this Bible. Maybe a later relative explained it, but I haven't found that yet. But the hair was kind of placed inside the gutter of the book very intentionally. So as an archivist, I didn't want to change that. I simply put the lock of hair in an archival envelope and labeled it, and I put it right back in the Bible. So it's still there, just in an envelope. But those are just some fun things that I found in our rare book collection. I'm always finding interesting things. So wanted to just share some of those fun things. And really quickly, on our last minute, Andrew, did you have a little
This was actually Addie.
Oh, it was Addie.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Addie, you had a little thing. Okay.
I keep forgetting that I have to put my name before comments that I'm making. Like I was going through and like the comments I've made, I was replying to myself saying this was Addie. But I was the one that said that. So the poem that you found reminded me of another textbook from that my great grandmother had. And it actually has quite a few like really interesting things. But in particular, I'll read some of the little
I'll take the background off.
yeah, some of the little poems and rhymes that my great grandmother put in here. But first, we have sorry, I'm trying to figure out how that works. But this is kind of what the front cover looks like, or the inside cover.
Paste it.
Yes. And thank you. And on the inside, there are two little poems on the inside written by her saying, remember well and bear in mind the lips that touch liquor will never touch mine, which I thought was interesting because she grew up in a dry county in North Carolina. So, and then another one was, when I am dead and asleep, put my physics book under my feet. Tell Mr. Ward I've gone to rest and won't be there for the physics test. I thought that was pretty funny too. So, your poem reminded me of some of my grandmother's poems, so I thought I'd share.
Oh, I love that. Love that so much. This has been so cool. I really appreciate everyone sharing, whether if you had your books or not. It doesn't matter. The stories are amazing. So thank you all so much. I truly appreciate you joining us today. The semester is winding down, but you'll be hearing from me about more programming, in-person and virtual programming, that I've got planned for spring 2024. So again, look out for my emails. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Appreciate you guys, and yay books. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
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 Thanks.